In the vast tapestry of life, where survival is a constant, intricate dance, there exist moments of profound, shocking fragility. One bite, one sting, one single breath. These are the seemingly innocuous triggers, the fleeting encounters that, for some, can unravel the very fabric of existence. An everyday act transformed in an instant into a life-or-death struggle, a silent ambush laid by the familiar. It is a stark reminder of the delicate balance within our own biology, a balance that can be catastrophically upset by elements we often take for granted, elements woven into the very texture of our daily lives, now revealed as potent adversaries. Across our planet, in bustling cities and tranquil countrysides, a hidden drama unfolds with alarming frequency. Every year, thousands of lives are tragically cut short. The culprits are not exotic poisons or fearsome predators, but the most ordinary of things. A simple peanut, a source of sustenance for many, becomes a deadly agent. A painkiller designed to alleviate suffering instead unleashes a fatal cascade. Even a child's balloon, a symbol of innocent joy, can harbor a latent threat capable of extinguishing a life. These are the paradoxes of our modern world, where the commonplace can conceal the critical and where safety can be an illusion, shattered without warning. These are not tales of misfortune drawn from the obscure corners of medical journals, nor are they the fated outcomes of unavoidable calamities. No, these are stories of preventable deaths. Tragedies compounded by a lack of awareness, a misunderstanding of the intricate workings of the human body. They speak of signals missed, of warnings unheeded, of a vulnerability that often remains invisible until it is catastrophically revealed. The knowledge to avert these outcomes exists, yet it often lies dormant, just beyond the reach of those who need it most, a silent guardian that was never summoned to its post. Tonight, we journey into the heart of these sudden, devastating events. We explore the silent mechanisms that turn friend into foe, the subtle shifts in biochemistry that can escalate a minor irritation into a full-blown crisis. We witness the profound impact on families and communities, the indelible scars left by these abrupt departures. For in understanding these deadly allergies and shining a light on what we don't know, we can begin to arm ourselves against these hidden killers, transforming vulnerability into vigilance and perhaps preventing the next life from being so tragically and unnecessarily lost. Consider a life in its prime, a 32-year-old woman navigating the complexities and joys of her daily existence. Like so many, she experiences the familiar discomfort of a sore throat, a minor ailment seemingly trivial in the grand scheme of her busy life. Seeking relief, she turns to a common remedy, penicillin, a marvel of modern medicine credited with saving countless lives.
There is a faint, distant memory, a fleeting recollection of a mild rash years ago, perhaps after a similar course of treatment. A minor skin irritation, easily dismissed at the time, a mere footnote in her medical history, now poised to become a pivotal, tragic chapter.
The body, however, possesses an extraordinary, often unacknowledged memory. The immune system, that diligent guardian of our internal realm, meticulously records every encounter, every foreign substance it deems a potential threat. That mild rash, experienced years prior, was not merely a superficial event, it was a signal, a first alert. Her immune cells, like sentinels, had noted the presence of penicillin, cataloguing it, albeit at a low level of concern initially. This initial sensitization is a subtle process, often occurring without fanfare, laying a hidden groundwork for a far more dramatic response should the perceived invader reappear, a biological trapdoor being silently set. With the current sore throat persisting, she takes the prescribed antibiotic, the first dose of penicillin. There is no immediate cause for alarm, no dramatic shift in her well-being, perhaps a fleeting sense of unease. A whisper from that distant memory, or more likely nothing at all. The medication begins its work against the bacteria, and for a brief period it seems as though normalcy will soon be restored. This deceptive calm, this absence of an immediate, overt reaction, can lull one into a false sense of security, masking the furious preparations taking place within her very cells, an army being silently mobilized.
The decision is then made to take the next dose, a routine act, performed without a second thought, yet one that will irrevocably alter her destiny. Unbeknownst to her, this second introduction of penicillin acts as a powerful clarion call to her now highly sensitized immune system. The body's defenders, primed and waiting, recognize the compound not as a healer, but as a dire threat. What was once a minor skirmish is about to escalate into an all-out war. A catastrophic overreaction where the body's own defenses become the instruments of its potential destruction. The silent time bomb, its fuse lit years ago by that forgotten rash, is now ticking with terrifying speed.
Within moments of the second dose, the carefully orchestrated balance of her physiology begins to unravel with terrifying speed. The immune system, now in a state of hyper-alertness, unleashes a torrent of chemical mediators, histamine, cytokines and others, like a sudden, overwhelming flood. These substances, designed to fight infection, now turn rogue, causing blood vessels to dilate dramatically, blood pressure to plummet and airways to constrict.
Her skin may erupt in hives. Her breathing may become shallow and labored. A desperate gasp for air as her throat begins to swell, the body's alarm system screaming in unison. The initial confusion gives way to dawning horror as the severity of her condition becomes unmistakably apparent. Those around her, perhaps initially attributing her distress to a simple side effect, now witness a rapid, terrifying decline. The rush for medical assistance begins, a frantic race against a biological clock that is ticking perilously fast. Every second is critical as the systemic reaction, anaphylaxis, takes hold, a multi-organ assault orchestrated by her own body.
She is caught in a maelstrom, her system overwhelmed, her consciousness beginning to fade under the relentless siege. The journey to the hospital is a blur, a desperate battle waged by paramedics to stabilize her failing systems. But the cascade, once initiated, is incredibly difficult to halt. The antibiotic intended to cure has triggered a response so severe that it threatens to extinguish her life. She slips into a coma, her brain starved of oxygen as her cardiovascular system falters under the immense strain. The body's intricate defense mechanisms, in their fervent attempt to protect, have paradoxically precipitated a catastrophic shutdown of vital functions, a profound betrayal of their intended purpose. Tragically, she never wakes from this profound state of unconsciousness. The antibiotic misstep, rooted in a forgotten mild reaction years before, proves fatal. That seemingly insignificant rash was a crucial warning, a harbinger of a devastating potential that lay dormant within her. The silent time bomb, as her case would later be described, had finally detonated, leaving behind a void of unimaginable grief and a stark lesson that even the most trusted of medicines can, in rare and specific circumstances, become an unforeseen executioner if the body's subtle warnings are not fully understood and heeded. In the heart of the countryside, a 45-year-old farmer moves with the rhythm of the seasons, his life intrinsically linked to the earth he cultivates. For him, the buzz of a bee is not an alien sound, but a familiar chorus, part of the daily symphony of his agricultural world. These industrious insects, vital pollinators, are constant companions in his fields and orchards. He has lived alongside them for decades, understanding their ways, respecting their role in the intricate web of his rural existence.
This familiarity, however, can sometimes breed a subtle, dangerous complacency when it comes to personal risk. I knew I was allergic to bee stings. It was a known fact within my family, a piece of information acknowledged, perhaps even discussed, but possibly not with the gravity it truly warranted.
He might have experienced previous stings, resulting in localized swelling, itching, discomfort reactions that, while unpleasant, were manageable, perhaps even perceived as a mere occupational hazard. His family thought he was just allergic, a phrase that can dangerously downplay the potential for a far more severe and life-threatening response. This label, just allergic, masked the true nature of the precipice upon which he stood.
On this particular day, under the vast expanse of the sky, amidst the familiar sights and sounds of my farm, the inevitable encounter occurs. A bee, perhaps disturbed from its task or feeling threatened, delivers its potent sting. For me, it's a moment I have experienced before, a sharp, sudden pain, an unwelcome interruption to my work. But this time, something is different.
Unseen within his bloodstream, a dramatic and swift immunological drama is beginning to unfold, far more aggressive and rapid than any previous encounter. The venom, a complex cocktail of proteins, is recognized by his immune system as a profound invader. Crucially, tragically, he was not carrying an EpiPen. This life-saving device, designed to deliver a precise dose of epinephrine to counteract the catastrophic effects of anaphylaxis, was absent. Perhaps it was forgotten in the house, or maybe the perceived low risk of past reactions led to a decision that it wasn't always necessary to have it immediately to hand. Allergic, for him and his family, may have meant discomfort, a bad reaction. But it hadn't fully translated into the understanding that it could mean swift, irreversible death without immediate intervention. This oversight, this missing tool, would prove to be a fatal lapse. The moments following the sting are not marked by the usual localized swelling and irritation he might have expected. Instead, a far more sinister and rapid cascade of symptoms begins. Within minutes, a terrifying transformation takes place. His breathing becomes difficult, his airway constricting as if an invisible hand is tightening around his throat.
A wave of dizziness might overcome me, my blood pressure plummeting as my blood vessels dilate uncontrollably. The body's response, designed to isolate and neutralize a threat, spirals into a systemic, life-threatening emergency. I collapse, the strength draining from me with alarming speed.
His family, witnessing this sudden and shocking deterioration, are plunged into a state of panic and disbelief. What they had always understood as just an allergy is now presenting as a desperate fight for life. The farmer they knew, strong and resilient, is now terrifyingly vulnerable, gasping for breath on the very land he nurtured. Their immediate actions, born of love and fear, are likely desperate attempts to alleviate his suffering, but they are unequipped to combat the sheer physiological force of anaphylactic shock without the one crucial intervention needed: epinephrine.
The call for emergency medical services is made, a plea for help against an enemy that is internal, swift, and merciless. But time, in cases of severe anaphylaxis, is an unforgiving adversary. The window for effective intervention with epinephrine is extraordinarily small, mere minutes.
Without the immediate administration of this drug to counteract the airway constriction, support blood pressure, and halt the inflammatory cascade, the chances of survival diminish with every passing second. The ambulance races towards them, but the biological damage is accelerating at a devastating pace. The farmer succumbs to the bee sting before comprehensive medical help can turn the tide. His death in the prime of his life on his own familiar land is a profound tragedy. It underscores the critical misunderstanding of what being allergic can truly mean. It wasn't just an allergy, it was a known severe vulnerability that demanded constant preparedness. The absence of an EpiPen, a simple portable device, transformed a manageable risk into a fatal event. A stark reminder that for those with severe allergies, vigilance is not just a precaution, but a lifeline. Here, in the comforting glow of the television screen, a familiar ritual unfolds. A family, drawn together by the promise of cinematic adventure, settles in for an evening's entertainment. The air is thick with anticipation. The scent of freshly made popcorn, a universal symbol of simple pleasures, hangs invitingly. Laughter, soft and carefree, echoes within these walls, a soundtrack to an ordinary night. Little do they know an unseen antagonist lurks within this scene of domestic bliss. A microscopic threat poised to shatter the tranquility. For most, this minute quantity would pass unnoticed, a harmless particle. But for this child, whose immune system is primed for a dramatic overreaction, it is a biological trigger. The memory of a previous, perhaps milder encounter with this protein lies dormant within the body's defensive cells. A silent instruction waiting to be reactivated with devastating efficiency. This seemingly innocuous snack, intended for delight, is about to become an instrument of profound distress. The warmth of shared company, the excitement of the unfolding story on screen, all serve to mask the imminent danger, a danger that is all the more potent for its invisibility. The popcorn, golden and inviting, a staple of movie nights across the globe, holds a treacherous secret. Unbeknownst to me, its fluffy kernels are dusted with the faintest trace of peanut, an allergen of formidable power. These are the vanguard of the body's misguided defense, the opening salvos in a war it is about to wage against itself. In the dim light of the room, engrossed in the film's narrative, such minor irritations are readily dismissed, attributed to a dry throat or the excitement of the moment. The child, still caught in the magic of the movie, may barely register these early warnings, the body's quiet alarm bells being drowned out by the unfolding drama on screen. But the allergen, once introduced, does not relent. It relentlessly signals to the immune system, which, in its hypervigilant state, misinterprets this harmless substance as a dire threat. Mast cells, the sentinels of the immune response, begin to degranulate, releasing a torrent of chemical mediators. Histamine and other potent compounds flood the tissues, their effects initially localized but insidiously preparing to spread. The clock has started ticking, though its urgent pace is not yet apparent. As the first few handfuls are consumed, the initial signs are treacherously subtle, easily mistaken for a common discomfort. A faint tickle at the back of the throat, perhaps, or a fleeting itch upon the skin.
Suddenly, the subtle warnings give way to an undeniable onslaught. The tickle in the throat constricts, making each breath a conscious effort. The skin erupts in angry raised welts, an outward manifestation of the internal turmoil.
Confusion, then panic, begins to cloud the child's eyes as their own body turns against them with alarming ferocity. The movie, once a source of joy, fades into a terrifying, unfocused backdrop. The parents, alerted by a gasp, a desperate clutch at the throat, are jolted from their shared reverie into a stark, horrifying reality.
The nature of the enemy is now terrifyingly clear, and the battle for survival has begun in earnest. In this moment of escalating crisis, the life-saving epinephrine autoinjector, the EpiPen, becomes the single most crucial element.
Yet in a tragic oversight, it lies tantalizingly out of reach, nestled in the glove compartment of the car parked outside. A simple errand, a brief separation from this vital tool, now looms as an insurmountable obstacle. The distance, mere meters, transforms into an unbridgeable chasm when measured against the relentless progression of anaphylaxis.
Each second spent without the administration of epinephrine allows the reaction to intensify, the body's systems to spiral further out of control. The very device designed to halt this catastrophic chain reaction is absent at the most critical juncture.
The physiological cascade is now in full, devastating swing. Blood vessels, under the influence of histamine, dilate dramatically, causing a precipitous drop in blood pressure. Fluid leaks from the capillaries into the surrounding tissues, leading to widespread swelling.
The airways, the delicate passages that deliver life-giving oxygen, begin to narrow, their smooth muscles contracting in a desperate, suffocating embrace. The heart struggles to pump blood through the failing circulatory system, deprived of adequate return.
It is a multi-systemic assault, a terrifying demonstration of the immune system's capacity for self-destruction when tragically misdirected. The child is caught in a maelstrom, their small body overwhelmed. The grim pronouncement, "in anaphylaxis, 2 minutes can be too late," echoes with chilling finality.
The window of opportunity for effective intervention is terrifyingly brief. Without the immediate counter-effects of epinephrine to constrict blood vessels, open airways, and stabilize mast cells, the body's descent into shock is swift and often irreversible.
The laughter of movie night gives way to a desperate, silent struggle. The joy of an ordinary evening is extinguished, replaced by a profound and enduring sorrow. This single tragic event underscores the unforgiving nature of severe allergies and the absolute necessity of constant vigilance and preparedness, for the line between life and death can be measured in mere moments.
Consider the humble lip balm, a ubiquitous accessory in the life of a teenager. Small, colorful, often scented with enticing fruit flavors, it promises soothing relief and a touch of cosmetic enhancement. It is an item of personal care, carried without a second thought, applied with casual frequency throughout the day.
For this young girl, her lip balm was no different, a familiar comfort, a small part of her daily routine. Its smooth texture and pleasant aroma offered a moment of innocent self-pampering. She reached for it, as she had countless times before, unaware that this seemingly innocuous stick harbored a hidden, potent adversary.
The danger lay not in the balm itself, but in an undeclared ingredient: mango. While for millions, mango is a delicious tropical fruit, for a sensitized individual, its proteins can act as powerful allergens. In this instance, the mango, or its derivative, was not listed among the ingredients, a critical failure in product labeling.
This omission transformed an everyday cosmetic into a potential trigger for a life-threatening reaction. The trust placed in manufacturers to accurately disclose the contents of their products was, in this case, tragically misplaced. The allure of a mango flavor masked a peril that was entirely unforeseen, a silent threat concealed within an attractive guise.
The simple act of application, a gentle glide across the lips, became the point of no return. The pleasing scent, the smooth sensation, these were the deceptive heralds of an impending crisis. As the balm made contact with the delicate skin of her lips, the allergenic proteins began their insidious work.
There was no warning, no bitter taste or unpleasant odor to signal the danger. The absorption was swift and silent, the body's immune cells in the oral mucosa encountering the foreign proteins. At this precise moment, the carefully balanced system of immune tolerance was breached, and a defensive response, disproportionate and dangerous, was initiated.
The first indications were subtle, easily dismissed as a minor irritation. A slight tingling on the lips, perhaps a mild itchiness around the mouth. These sensations, the earliest whispers of the body's alarm, might have been attributed to dry skin or the flavoring itself.
The young girl, perhaps chatting with friends engrossed in her surroundings, may not have immediately recognized these signals for what they truly were, the opening act of a severe allergic reaction. The deceptive nature of anaphylaxis often begins with such understated symptoms, lulling the individual into a false sense of security before its more dramatic and dangerous manifestations take hold.
The pleasant experience of applying lip balm was slowly, imperceptibly, turning sinister.
The transition from mild discomfort to acute distress, was terrifyingly swift. The initial tingling sensation on her lips rapidly intensified, morphing into a pronounced swelling that distorted her features. A growing tightness in her throat signaled the encroachment of the reaction upon her airway, each breath becoming a more labored, more difficult task.
Her voice, if she tried to speak, may have become hoarse, a further indication of laryngeal edema. The pleasant fruity scent of the lip balm now seemed a cruel mockery as her body struggled against an invisible assailant. Panic began to set in, a primal fear accompanying the physical sensations of suffocation and systemic distress.
Her friends, witnessing this alarming transformation, were thrown into a state of confusion and helplessness. They saw their companion, moments before vibrant and smiling, now struggling for air, her face contorted by swelling and fear. Lacking the specific knowledge of how to recognize and respond to anaphylaxis, they were ill-equipped to provide the critical aid she so desperately needed.
Perhaps they offered water, or fanned her face, their well-intentioned actions utterly insufficient against the biochemical storm raging within her. The absence of an emergency action plan, the lack of immediate access to epinephrine, left them as horrified bystanders to a rapidly unfolding tragedy.
Internally, her body was waging a catastrophic battle. The undeclared mango allergen had triggered a massive release of histamine and other inflammatory mediators, causing systemic vasodilation and increased vascular permeability. Her blood pressure plummeted, starving vital organs of oxygen.
The delicate tissues of her larynx and bronchioles swelled, obstructing the passage of air. Hives may have erupted across her skin, an outward sign of the internal chaos. This was not a localized reaction, it was a full-blown systemic shutdown, a terrifying demonstration of the immune system's power when it mistakenly identifies a harmless substance as a mortal enemy.
Her own defense mechanisms had become her executioner. Her smile became her silence. This poignant epitaph captures the devastating finality of the event. The lip balm, intended to enhance her smile, instead initiated a chain of events that silenced her forever. The tragic irony is profound.
This incident serves as a stark reminder of the critical importance of accurate ingredient labeling, the need for widespread allergy awareness, and the life-saving significance of knowing how to respond in an anaphylactic emergency. For this young girl, the simple, innocent application of a mango-flavored lip balm led to an irreversible outcome, a vibrant life cut short by an unlisted, unseen danger.
The scene is set for celebration, a birthday party, a gathering of loved ones, the air alive with anticipation and joy.
Balloons, those quintessential symbols of festivity, are being inflated, their bright colors promising laughter and lightheartedness.
Here, a man, eager to contribute to the cheerful atmosphere, takes on the task of bringing these rubber spheres to life.
Each puff of breath into a balloon is an act of love, a small effort to build the landscape of a happy occasion.
The familiar squeak of rubber stretching, the gradual expansion into vibrant orbs, these are the sounds and sights that precede so many joyous events.
Yet, intertwined with this innocent activity is a forgotten piece of this man's medical history, a mild latex reaction experienced years prior.
Perhaps it was a minor skin irritation after wearing rubber gloves, or a slight rash from a sticking plaster.
Such an event, seemingly insignificant at the time, might have been easily dismissed, its memory fading with the passage of years.
He may not have connected that distant, mild sensitivity with the act of inflating balloons, an activity performed by countless individuals without a second thought.
This underestimation of a past sensitization, this failure to recognize the potential lurking danger, set a tragic course.
As he inflates balloon after balloon, he is unknowingly engaging in repeated, direct contact with the allergen.
Latex proteins, microscopic particles shed from the surface of the balloons, are transferred to his skin, his lips, and inevitably are aerosolized into the surrounding air.
With each breath taken to inflate another balloon, he inhales these potent sensitizers.
The warm, moist environment of his airways provides an ideal route for these proteins to be absorbed directly into his system.
The very act of preparing for a celebration becomes an escalating exposure to a substance his body has previously learned to identify as an enemy.
Initially, the reawakening of his body's sensitivity might have been subtle, easily overlooked amidst the bustle of party preparations.
A fleeting itch on his hands, perhaps a slight redness around his mouth where the balloons made contact.
He might have experienced a tickle in his throat or a sneeze, attributing it to dust or simple exertion.
In the context of a festive, busy environment, such minor discomforts are often ignored, pushed to the periphery of awareness.
Yet these were the early insidious signals that his immune system was recognizing the latex and beginning to mount a response that would soon escalate with catastrophic speed and intensity. The transition from these minor, almost imperceptible signs to a full-blown medical emergency can be shockingly abrupt.
What began as a forgotten sensitivity, a mild reaction from the past, now explodes with terrifying force.
The body, having been re-exposed to the latex allergen, unleashes an overwhelming and systemic immune response.
This is not a gradual worsening. It is a sudden precipitous decline.
The man, moments before actively participating in the joyful preparations, may suddenly feel an overwhelming sense of unease, a dawning realization that something is terribly wrong as his body begins to betray him in the most dramatic fashion.
His system is now under siege.
The latex proteins trigger mast cells and basophils to release a torrent of chemical mediators: histamine, leukotrienes, prostaglandins.
These powerful substances wreak havoc throughout the body.
Blood vessels dilate uncontrollably, leading to a catastrophic drop in blood pressure and the onset of anaphylactic shock.
His airways, the vital conduits for breath, constrict violently, making each inhalation a desperate struggle.
His skin may flush or break out in hives, an outward sign of the internal inferno.
His heart, starved of adequate blood flow and oxygen, begins to falter.
It is a rapid multi-organ assault.
The speed with which anaphylactic shock can overcome an individual is one of its most terrifying characteristics.
Within minutes of the severe symptoms appearing, consciousness can be lost and vital organ systems can begin to fail.
There is often precious little time for effective intervention, especially if the cause is not immediately recognized or if appropriate medical treatment, like epinephrine, is not administered without delay.
The festive sounds of the impending party are replaced by a sudden, chilling silence, then by panicked cries as the joyous occasion takes a dark and unforeseen turn.
The very objects intended to bring delight become instruments of devastation.
Celebration turned funeral, all from a balloon.
This stark summary encapsulates the profound tragedy.
A life full of promise and engaged in an act of joyful preparation is extinguished by an allergy that was perhaps underestimated or forgotten.
The colorful balloons, now symbols of a day that ended in sorrow, serve as a grim reminder of the lethal potential hidden within seemingly innocuous everyday materials.
This devastating event underscores the critical need for awareness of even mild past allergic reactions. For latex, a ubiquitous substance in modern life, can, for a sensitized few, transform a moment of happiness into an irreversible loss. Here, in the grand theatre of human innovation, stands the vaccine, a monumental testament to our species' relentless quest for dominion over disease.
For generations, these microscopic shields have stood guard, deflecting the invisible arrows of pestilence, saving countless millions from the brink of suffering and premature demise.
They represent a pact of trust, a collective embrace of scientific endeavor, designed to fortify the very fabric of public health.
Each vial, a promise of protection, a beacon of hope against the unseen microbial storms that have, throughout history, ravaged civilizations, leaving trails of sorrow in their wake.
This is the narrative we understand, the triumph we celebrate.
Yet, within this narrative of salvation, a far rarer, more insidious story can unfold.
Consider an individual stepping forward for a routine influenza vaccine, an act of prudent self-care, a responsible contribution to communal well-being.
They carry no conscious knowledge of a lurking vulnerability, no prior warning from their own intricate biology of an impending betrayal.
The egg, a common seemingly innocuous foodstuff, a staple of breakfasts worldwide, holds the key to this particular devastating deviation.
Unknown to this soul, their immune system harbors a secret animosity towards proteins derived from this humble source, a dormant conflict awaiting only the faintest of triggers to erupt with unforeseen ferocity.
Within the carefully constructed world of medical science, even the most beneficial interventions can conceal minute, almost imperceptible risks for a predisposed few.
The very medium used to cultivate some vaccines, the humble chicken egg, can become an unwitting Trojan horse, carrying within its life-giving proteins the seeds of destruction for an individual whose body is uniquely and tragically sensitized.
This is not a failing of the vaccine's primary purpose, but a stark reminder of the breathtaking complexity and individuality of human physiology.
A reminder that even in our most sophisticated attempts to safeguard life, nature occasionally reveals a cruel and intricate loophole, a biological fine print unread until it is catastrophically too late.
And so the moment arrives, a simple, almost trivial act.
The needle, a slender instrument of intended good, pierces the skin, delivering its cargo of protective antigens.
But with it, unknowingly, it also delivers the precise molecular key that will unlock a violent internal storm.
The body, designed to fight invaders, misidentifies a component of this defense as a mortal enemy.
The stage is set not for immunity, but for a catastrophic internal war, a silent, swift, and devastating escalation.
The very act meant to preserve health is poised, in this instance, to unleash a fatal cascade within the unsuspecting recipient, a life about to be irrevocably altered by a hidden truth.
The initial onset is often deceptive, a whisper before the biological roar, perhaps a fleeting sensation of unease, a subtle warmth spreading beneath the skin, or an itch that seems to arise from nowhere and everywhere at once. These are the first faint signals from the body's internal sentinels, an alarm being raised against an enemy they have mistakenly identified. But this is no ordinary skirmish. It is the prelude to anaphylaxis, the immune system's most extreme and terrifying response. The body's defenders, usually so precise, now unleash their entire arsenal against a perceived, yet in this context, phantom threat, a reaction disproportionate and devastatingly swift. Within minutes, the situation transforms. The subtle signs give way to a terrifying systemic onslaught. Airways, the very passages of life, begin to constrict, as if an invisible hand is tightening its grip. Blood pressure plummets, a precipitous fall that threatens to starve vital organs of their essential oxygen. The skin may erupt in hives, an outward manifestation of the turmoil raging within. This is the body betraying itself, its defense mechanisms honed over millennia to protect, now turned inward with calamitous self-destructive force. The patient, moments before a picture of health, is now fighting for every breath, every heartbeat against their own physiology. Here lies the profound, heart-wrenching irony. The shield becomes the sword. A medical intervention born of a desire to protect and preserve becomes the very catalyst for life's unraveling. For the medical professionals attending, it is a sudden, desperate battle against a foe that is both internal and relentless. The routine becomes an emergency. The expected outcome of wellness is horrifyingly inverted into a struggle against imminent mortality. The shock, the disbelief is palpable as they deploy every countermeasure in their arsenal to halt the internal siege, to reclaim a life teetering on the precipice of oblivion. But sometimes, despite all efforts, the betrayal is too swift, too absolute. The individual who sought protection finds instead a fatal vulnerability, exposed by the very thing meant to shield. Medicine saved millions. The grand overarching truth remains, yet there is one soul that is not to blame. Her story becomes a somber footnote, a poignant reminder of the delicate, often unpredictable balance of life and the hidden peril that can lurk even within the sanctuary of Christ. A life extinguished not by the disease and sought to avoid, but by an unknown internal predisposition, a silent, fatal secret held within her own cells. Megan Lee, a vibrant 15-year-old, stood on the cusp of life, her world alight with the boundless promise and energy of youth. Like so many of her generation, she navigated the digital landscape with ease, embracing the convenience of modern technology. The simple act of ordering food online, a commonplace ritual in countless households, offered a moment of anticipated pleasure, a small treat to brighten an ordinary day. There was no premonition of danger, no shadow of the tragedy that was about to unfold from such a mundane interaction, a sequence of clicks that would set in motion an irreversible chain of events leading to an outcome no one could have foreseen. With the casualness that technology affords, the order was placed, perhaps a favorite dish, something comforting, something sweet, a cookie maybe, a seemingly innocuous choice, an everyday indulgence. Megan, acutely aware of her allergies or her family on her behalf, would have navigated the ordering process with a degree of care, placing their trust in the information provided, or the lack thereof. They relied on the implicit promise of safety, the assumption that those who prepare and sell food understand the profound responsibility they hold, especially concerning allergens that can, for some, be a matter of life and death. This trust, so easily given, would soon be catastrophically betrayed. For within that simple cookie, or the meal it accompanied, lurked a hidden adversary, peanut oil. An ingredient not declared, not highlighted, its presence a silent, lethal secret embedded within the food. This was not an act of malice, perhaps, but one of profound, unconscionable negligence on the part of the establishment. A failure to communicate, a disregard for the potentially fatal consequences of omitting such critical information. In the complex chain of food preparation and delivery, this single oversight, this missing piece of data, transformed an innocent pleasure into an instrument of profound harm, a ticking time bomb delivered to an unsuspecting home. The initial moments after consumption may have been unremarkable, but soon, the insidious work of the allergen began. The body's alarm systems, hypersensitive to this particular protein, were triggered. What followed was not a swift collapse, but a crueler, more drawn-out ordeal. Megan battled for 2 agonizing days, a period where hope and despair must have waged a relentless war in the hearts of her loved ones. 2 days where medical science fought to reclaim her, as the undeclared ingredient waged its devastating assault from within, a stark testament to the severe and prolonged suffering that can result from such unseen dietary dangers. The loss of Megan Lee sent ripples of unimaginable grief through her family, a vibrant young life extinguished with such cruel abruptness. Their world, once filled with her laughter and dreams, was plunged into a silence too profound to bear. Yet from this crucible of sorrow a fierce determination was forged, a resolve that Megan's death would not be in vain, that lessons must be learned and that accountability must be sought. The 2 days she fought for her life became a harrowing vigil, a testament to her strength, but ultimately a countdown to a loss that would galvanize a demand for justice against those whose carelessness had wrought such devastation. The ensuing legal battle brought the restaurant owners to court. Their negligence laid bare before the justice system. The charge was not a mere fine for a breach of food safety regulations, but one of manslaughter. This marked a significant moment, a recognition that the failure to declare lethal allergens, the casual disregard for a customer's clearly stated needs, could indeed be equated with unlawfully causing a death. The courtroom became an arena where the profound responsibility of food providers was scrutinized, where the devastating human cost of their lapse in duty was made starkly, painfully clear to all. Megan's tragic story resonated far beyond the courtroom, becoming a clarion call for systemic change across the United Kingdom. Her name became synonymous with the fight for greater transparency and stricter controls in the food industry. Her death changed UK food laws, a solemn epitaph, yet also a beacon of progress. New regulations were enacted, compelling food businesses to provide comprehensive allergen information with far greater clarity and diligence, particularly for food sold online or for takeaway. The loopholes that had allowed such a tragedy to occur began to close one by one in her memory. And so, while Megan's life was tragically cut short, her legacy endures, woven into the very fabric of food safety legislation. It is a somber, bittersweet victory. A young girl's vibrant spirit, though silenced, continues to protect others from a similar fate. Her story serves as a constant, poignant reminder to the food industry of their solemn obligations and to society of the ever-present dangers faced by those with severe allergies. A life lost, yet in that loss, a catalyst for a safer world for countless others, a profound and lasting impact born from an unbearable sorrow. We have journeyed through shadows, witnessing the heartbreaking fragility of life when confronted by these silent, often invisible adversaries. From the antibiotic misstep to the undeclared peanut, from the sting of an insect to the very air in a celebratory balloon, the stories echo a common tragic refrain: a life unexpectedly, irrevocably lost. These are not mere accidents of fate, but collisions between human vulnerability and a world where hidden dangers lurk within the everyday, the familiar, even the therapeutic. The common thread, so often, is a lack of awareness, a moment of unpreparedness, or a crucial piece of information tragically missing, with consequences that ripple outwards, changing families and communities forever. We teach our children the fundamental rules of survival in the urban jungle, to look both ways with unwavering attention before crossing the bustling, perilous street. A simple yet vital mantra for navigating the more obvious physical dangers that surround us. Perhaps in this increasingly complex world where threats are not always so readily apparent, a new, equally vital lesson is paramount. A lesson etched not merely in the tarmac of our roadways, but on the very packaging of our sustenance, on the menus in our restaurants. A lesson to meticulously, diligently check every label. To find the courage and confidence to ask the waiter, to clarify and confirm, and always, always to carry the pen. That slender vial of epinephrine, a small beacon of hope and a powerful agent of rescue. For in this world, a world where the unseen can indeed extinguish a precious life, where an invisible protein, an unlisted fragment of an ingredient, or a forgotten history of sensitivity can become an agent of sudden, irreversible silence. Forgetting these simple acts of personal and collective diligence, this crucial, life-sustaining awareness is not merely an oversight, not a trivial lapse in memory. In the starkest, most uncompromising terms, for those whose bodies are poised to react with such devastating ferocity, forgetting is fatal. It is a truth that allows no room for complacency, no tolerance for assumption, demanding instead a constant, unwavering vigilance from us all. The responsibility, therefore, extends beyond the individual sufferer. It becomes a shared societal duty to cultivate an environment of understanding, to champion clarity in labeling, to ensure that life-saving medication is accessible and knowledge of its use widespread. Each story we have heard is a testament to the power that lies in awareness, the lives that can be shielded by simple precautions and informed actions. Let us be the ones who remember, the ones who ask, the ones who are prepared. Because in the silent, swift battle against anaphylaxis, knowledge, vigilance, and compassion are our most potent, life-affirming weapons.